Hello, this is Eric from labofcoding.com. In the last video, I gave a quick overview of the various URL endpoints that we'll have in our project. For now, we only have the homepage endpoint, which just lists all the to-dos that we have saved in our database. In this video, instead of creating the endpoint, which will be allowing users to create a new to-do in the database, we are going to work on the endpoint, which allows users to fetch or get the to-do with a given ID. So the way that Django works, you can pass URL arguments in your URL, which will be passed to your view, and you can be able to use them in your Django view. So in this case, we will allow users to pass the to-do ID in the URL, and then we will use it in our view to fetch the to-do with that given ID. So let's go to the views.py file in our main app and create this endpoint, which will be displaying the details of our given to-do. Because it's displaying the details of one to-do, we can just call it to-do detail. And then it will be accepting a to-do ID, which will be an integer passed in the URL. So as you expect, we will need to have a template for this view, as we have a template for the index view. So let's go to the template directory, and under the inner main directory, let's create our new template. Let's give it the same name that we gave to our view, to do detail.html. So it is this template that will be displaying the to-do that we have fetched from the database. Quickly, let's copy the markup that is in our index.html and paste it here. And because we will not be displaying all the to-dos, only one to-do, we can drop everything else and remain with the nav element. We can close this one. So as you can see, there is a lot of duplication of HTML markup in the to-do detail and in the index template. This is because we have the head tag and even the header, the nav bar that we were using. They will be, in most cases, they will be the same in all our templates. So instead of duplicating this code, we can have it in one place and reuse it in the various templates that we'll be using. So this is where Django template inheritance and blocks comes in. So Django has a concept of template inheritance and blocks, which makes it easy to reuse HTML markup in your various templates. So the way that it works, you will have a base template or a parent template, which will have the common markup that you will need in your various other pages, which will contain that markup, which is reusable, and then you will have the other templates inherit from that parent template. So let's go to our main directory in the templates directory, and let's create a new base.html file. So this will serve as the parent template for all the other templates, and it will store the common markup. In this case, the head and the nav element are similar, so we can have them in the parent templates. So let's copy this and let's have it in our base.html file. The way that Django works, you will declare blocks. Blocks are what child elements will override and add their custom components. So let's have in our body, in our container, we will have a block which all the child templates will override, and they will have their own markup in that block. So Django has a block template tag, which is what you use to create your blocks, which child pages will override and add their markup. So in this case, let's create a block in our container class, and that is what we will use in the other templates. So it's block, and then the block tag takes the name of the the name of the block that will be used in the templates to override. So let's call our block main content. And so the child elements, when they override this template, they will have this markup as it is, and then they will override the block main content and then add their own markup in that place. So let's go to the index.html file and use this use the base template. So let me change the syntax here to Django so that we have syntax highlighting for Django template tags. So the tag that you use to override to extend template is called extend, and it takes the name of the template that you want to override from the parent template. In this case, you want to extend main base.html, and remember that the extend tag must always be the first markup in your template. It cannot come before anything else. So in this case, we are extending the base template tag, which has all this markup, and we'll override this block so that we can add our custom content there. So let's override the main content block, and let's add the markup that is specific to this page. In this case, it's the content that we added, the table and the other variables. Let's have this one in the block tag, and then we can drop everything else. So in this case, we only have the content that is specific to our index page, and it's using the all the other content that has been declared in the index, in the base template, sorry. Yeah, so let's go to our browser and refresh and see if everything is still all right. Awesome. So our index page has reused markup that has been declared in the base template, and we can also reuse the same markup in the to-do detail page. So let's go to do detail page and remove everything, and as we did in the index page, let's extend main base.html, and let's declare the content where we'll have our markup here. Sorry, it's main content, and we'll have our custom markup in this place. So let's go to the views.py file and work on our to-do detail view. So it will return the render, and then the render method takes the request object as the first argument. So we did not pass it in the view. Let's do that. So it will be request, and then remember the request object should be the first argument in your view. And then in the render method, let's pass the template name as the next argument. It will be main / to do detail.html, and then we'll pass the context object. In this case, our context will contain the to-do that we have fetched using the to-do ID. So let's use the Django ORM to do that. So it will be to-do objects.get. So you can either use ID or PK to get an object using its primary key. So let's just use PK. In the case, it will be to do ID, and then let's pass this in the context object. So it will be context to do, and then let's pass the context object in the render method and render it in the template. So it will be context. So we will get the to-do with a given ID and pass it to our context, and then render it in our to-do detail template. So let's go to our to-do detail template and render the to-do. So we've passed it using the to-do argument, to-do key. So let's use that one to display it. In this case, For now we'll just display the title, but we'll display the full to do later on. So now after we've created our view, we'll have to register it in the urls.py file. Let's do that. So let's go to urls.py file and pass and register our view. So our view is to do detail. So let's register it using the path object. So the path will be to do, and then it will be accepting the variable to do ID of type integer. So the way you do this, use the angle brackets, and then you pass the type. In this case, the type will be an integer, and you want it to be, so our variable that we're passing to the view is to do underscore ID. So the type is usually not a mandatory argument, it's optional. And then let's not forget to put the / at the end. And let's pass our view. In this case, it's to do detail. So Django will complain if a user passes a variable other than which is not a valid integer, which is good for us. So let's go to the browser and try to access this path. So that will be, the path will be to do, and then you pass the ID of the to do that you want to access. In this case, let's say 5 or some to do 2. If we go to the Django admin, we go to the to do's, we'll find that it is to do 2, which has the ID of 5. The ID is not displayed, but you can see it in the URL, to do ID 5. Django uses the same procedure that we're using to get the to do's. As you can see, the template inheritance is still working fine, because we are using the nav element declared in the base template. So if we inspect this page and go to the body, we'll see that our to do is displayed in the container class. This is because our main block was declared under the container class in the base template. So for now we are only displaying the title, but it will be good to display the whole to do. So let's go to the Bootstrap website and use a card for that. So let's go to the Bootstrap documentation, and then under components, let's look for the card component. Let's look for something. Let's look for the card which is both a title and a footer. So we can just copy this markup and go to our to do detail. Let's render this properly. So in this case, our the card header will be the title. So that will be to do the title, and then the footer will display either if the to do has been done or not. So let's use the if conditional, and let's say if to do dot done. So let's use the opposite. Let's negate it. Let's say if not to do dot done, will display the string not, and then outside we'll just say they were done. So we can have all this in one line to make it easy. So if not to do dot done, we will display the not string, but if it's done, we'll just say done. Let's have this as a capital, and then the card text will have the description. So that will be to do the description. Then we can have the card title again. Here should be to do dot title. So let's go to our browser and refresh the page. yeah, displaying properly, but we still have the go somewhere string, which we can drop for now. So let's refresh. Yeah, so that's look a bit better. So that is the to do 2 is done. Maybe let's display a to do that has not been done. So to do 4 with ID 7 has not been done. So let's change this to 7. Yeah, not done. So for now we are displaying the to do title 2 times, both as the header and within the card text. So we can have the title displaying the date, the due date of the to do. So let's change this one to due date. Then we can put the string outside like due date. So let's refresh this. Yeah, that looks nicer now. So you may be asking yourself what happens when a user passes an ID over to do which does not exist. So let's try to pass something like 700, which is a valid integer, but it points to a to do which is not existing in the database. Django will complain. We will get does not exist error, telling us to do matching query does not exist. This is because we don't have a to do with that ID in the database. So that exception is being raised by the to do.get method. So in an ideal case, we want to, if someone passes an ID over to do that does not exist, we return a HTTP 404 page does not exist. So we can do that. So let's go to the Django.http module and return and import the HTTP 400 exception. HTTP 404. So let's have a try block and let's try to get that to do. So let's move this here, and if the to do does not exist exception is raised, and you can access that exception on the to do class. So the exception is does not exist. So we will raise the HTTP 404 that we have raised, and let's say to do with ID. Sorry, let's use string formatting there to get the pass the ID. Does not exist. And then let's use the format method. Sorry. To pass the ID that has been passed, to tell the user explicitly that to do with that ID does not exist. So let's go to the browser and refresh. Yeah, so you see Django raises a HTTP 404 telling the user to do with ID 7000 does not exist. So Django, so this is somehow repetitive, and they come with a shortcut because it's always common to try to get an object, and if it does not exist, you raise a HTTP 404. So Django has a shortcut in the shortcut module known as get object or 404, which is get object or 404. So we will use that instead. So in this case, you say to do is equal to get object or 404. And the first argument is the class of the object that you want to get, in this case to do, and then the keyword arguments are the field, the values that you want to get it by. In this case, you want to get it by the PK, and it is to do ID. So we can drop the try catch block and remove the import which we no longer need. So Django will try to get the to do with the PK to do, and if it does not exist, it will return a 404 error. So let's refresh our page. Yeah, so still you're getting the 404, but if you still go back to 7, we are getting our to do. So that's it for now. We'll pick up from this in the next video. Thanks for watching.